You know, when you have a show about gratitude, you've got to be grateful for your sponsors. And in our life of gratitude, you know, we all have guides. Somebody that guided us through our lives, that made us appreciate those things that we have. And that's why I'm so delighted and so grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Life Guides is a peer-to-peer community that helps people navigate through their day-to-day stressors by providing a place of empathy, listening, wisdom, and support with a guide who has walked in your shoes, experiencing the same challenge or life experience as you. A true life guide. And because you're listening to our gratitude podcast, if you go to their website, lifeguides.com/schedule a demo and add the code HEALTHY2021. The code is HEALTHY2021 in the free text box. You'll get 2 months of their services for free. 2 months for free. So sign up, show your team you care, get a life guide, be grateful for those guides in your life, as I am grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides.
Welcome to Leading the Gratitude Live. I'm your host, the Apostle of Appreciation, Cheddar, coming to you live and in color from the Gratitude Epicenter of the Universe, Summit, New Jersey. We say, hey, give us 30 minutes. We'll give you great information, great inspiration, and a roadmap to create your own culture of gratitude where you work and where you live. It's all brought to you on the wonderful Methods Network, on Facebook, on YouTube, and the wonderful folks at LinkedIn. Today, our guest is Tiffani Bova. Let me tell you a little bit about my new friend, Tiffani. She's the Growth and Innovation Evangelist at Salesforce and was previously VP, Distinguished Analyst and Research Fellow with Gartner. She was recently named to Thinker 50's list of the world's top business thinkers and has appeared on Bloomberg, CNN, MSNBC, and Yahoo Finance, among others. She has also interviewed guests ranging from Dan Pink to Arianna Huffington on her What's Next podcast. And her insights have helped some of the largest technology companies in the world with improving their go-to-market strategies, expand their market share, and grow their revenues. Tiffani is also a top Twitter influencer in customer experience, sales, AI, the future of work, the cloud, and marketing. I'm excited to welcome to the show my new friend, Tiffani Bova in Orange. Welcome to the show, Tiffani.
Hello, Chester. I feel like this is a kinship. The apostle of appreciation meets with the evangelist of growth. It's like the apostle and the evangelist have come together.
Absolutely. Can I get an amen? Hey, listen, we're going to have a lot of fun today. You know, Tiffani's got great energy and some great ideas to talk to us about. We've also got our Question Command Center with Justin Levere. Justin, wave to the crowd in your ninja black. Put your questions in the chat box. We'll have some fun with that. Now, Tiffani, you know, it's really interesting. You've talked about your work in growth and then evangelist. How did you really get into that as being where your sweet spot was around growth and being that evangelist?
It's always a great question. People are like, first of all, how'd you come up with the title? I'm like, well, I came up with it. They gave me the freedom to choose the title. And I was very specific. I figured if I used sort of my rank, people would make an assumption that I managed people, which I don't. Then if I had too much specificity, I didn't have the latitude to talk about this wide range of topics that interest me and excite me and clients want to learn more about. And the evangelist side of it was really all about me being able to travel the world and storytell and sort of inspire people about what's possible. So it was this great combination of creativity on the title as well as sort of what I get to do every day.
You know, I love the way you emphasize storytelling. And in your work, you talk about various paths that people can take. And today we wanted to focus on that 10th path. And you made the remark that with every other path, there were 2 stories, but in the 10th path, there were 3 stories. So talk to us about the 10th path.
Well, I wrote a book called Growth IQ, and I had come up with 10 paths to growth. And I knew I had a really good understanding, or a clear understanding, I thought anyway, of what 9 of them were. But the 10th one I left sort of to come to me in some way along this journey of writing the book. And I was looking for something along the lines of what was going to be the next freemium, how brands have grown historically in a recurring revenue is give something away for free. Like come join, spend time with us at the gym for your first week for free. And then you have to become a member, or, you can try this service for 90 days for free. And then if you want no ads, you have to pay. So that kind of freemium model was something that was used for a fairly long time to attract customers as well as convert them into paying customers. And I was looking for what's going to be that next freemium growth model that comes up. And I just really, honestly, I couldn't do it. I felt like I was in a different part of my career. I had just joined Salesforce. We're very much about business being the greatest platform for change and thinking about purpose over profit. And so I made that 10th path, doing well by doing good. And it felt right then, and it feels even more right now. So each story, each path rather, that had 2 positive use cases of that particular path with brands and 1 cautionary tale. And Chester, as you mentioned, the last path is 3 positive stories, always end on a high note. So that's kind of how that happened. And it's interesting how many people have really enjoyed that chapter and never really thought about this kind of doing well by doing good as a way in which brands can grow.
Yeah, talk about, especially now, this idea of purpose over profit. And yet when you have a noble purpose, the profit comes. Why is it so critical now more than ever to customers to be affiliated or give their time and treasure to a company that really does understand purpose?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've done a lot of research, as well as other companies have done a tremendous amount of research over the interest in specifically the millennial generation, actually, in doing business with brands that have a social conscience, or said another way, that they agree with their values as a company. It could be somebody like Tom's Shoes, which early on was, if you buy a shoe, they'll donate a shoe. And then you saw that replicated across the board in all kinds of industries where, buy one, give one, the 1-for-1 model became really, really prevalent. And so it was a lot about making sure that they were being good stewards of the community, their employees, the people that work there, and just really doing well by their greater shareholders. And, since I wrote the book, all kinds of things has happened. The Business Roundtable, which is about 180 CEOs from around the world of some of the largest companies, really trying to shift this mindset of being shareholder driven, but not at just the profit level, but also on the purpose level, that if your employees are happy, your customers will be happy. If your employees or customers are happy, they will buy more. If they buy more, the shareholders benefit because the growth increases. And so if you think about that in this sort of flywheel of an effect, all of a sudden people start saying, oh, I get it. And so consumers are saying, I'm more willing to work with a brand. I agree with their values. As an employee, I'm willing to work for a company because I agree with them. I might even be willing to work for free or donate my time or take less pay because I so agree with the platform.
Now, there's a lot of talk about millennials in the workplace and driving this kind of idea. Are you seeing the same thing happening with Gen Z, or as a Canadian, I would say Gen Z?
So it's interesting. This is the first time globally we've had 5 age groups or generations working simultaneously. And you could almost argue it's almost 5.5 at this point, if you think about teenagers that may have summer jobs. And so you've got a lot of different generations with different values, different work ethic, different things that interest them, different skill sets, different feelings and views around education, and also different views about this sort of business as the greatest platform for change. And I would say that over time, every generation has representation of people wanting to say, you know what, I just want to do better. And how can my company, regardless of how big or small, how can I make a difference? How can I use the right materials in my to-go boxes? What about not including, a wrapper of utensils when you do takeout food, when people, at the moment, everybody's eating at home. And so, just sustainability and saving the environment and equality and all those things are really important. And I think voting with your pocketbook is the greatest way to say that you appreciate what brands are doing when it comes to this. So it isn't just millennials by any means. And I'd say that it's regional as well as gender specific. You have in certain industries, one of the stories in my book is lemonade insurance, which I didn't know this when I was doing research for the book, but insurance is primarily bought by men. It doesn't mean women aren't involved in the decision, but it was like 65 or 70% of insurance, if not higher, is purchased by men. And Lemonade came out with, we want to take advantage of the platform and technology that is now being used by so many other industries. And we feel like insurance hasn't done that, but we're going to do this with a purpose-led vision and value for the company. And lo and behold, what ended up happening was they attracted far more millennials. They attracted far more women. The amount of claims, the percentage of claims for customers is significantly lower than others in the insurance industry. As well, people feel like they're giving back. And so the collection of those things has made, while Lemonade is a very small insurance company in the whole grand scheme of the insurance industry, it really shows that people are looking for alternatives and ways that they can give back in the brands that they purchase from. So that's just a great example of how, it isn't just millennials, it isn't just men, it isn't just women, it isn't just by age. It's really everybody saying, we want to try to do better.
That's great. Two things. A, I just have to say again, you look stunning in that orange. That's remarkable. It's a great color for you. Secondly, let's throw it to the Question Command Center. We've got a lot of questions flying in, really good ones. Justin, over to you.
Excellent. Hey, great conversation and pleasure to be with you, Tiffany. Our first question comes from Oliver Ellens in Bath, UK. Oliver writes in and asks, how important is the platform of purpose to different generations?
Question, because I think that's where we see difference. I mean, there's no question that we see difference, but I don't like the blanket segmentation of it's only millennials or only boomers or only Z or, whatever generation you want to talk about. Ultimately, there's always groups that are going to do it or not going to do it. But in the mean, when you start to see the level of conversation coming up around in the environmental causes, sustainability, equality, purpose, we even had a company, Unilever, the prior CEO, literally say that he's not going to give guidance. He's not going to talk about earnings, that he's going to talk about how they're landing on the UN's SDGs. Like, how are they actually contributing to sustainability since they're producing, as CPG company, so much for the landfill, so much to be recycled, and really talking about how is their carbon footprint? How are they being fully sustainable? How are they giving, 100% back in order to make sure that they're investing in the right things? And when you start to see that conversation come up on earnings calls and the Business Roundtable as an example, and more brands using it in their advertising, then you know that it's raising in the level of social consciousness. And so more and more people talking about it means that even more small businesses will start to figure out, well, what's our role? It can't just be about big business. Everybody has to sort of play their part. So, while I think generationally there are subtle differences and gender and region and industry, I feel like, if you really sit down with people and talk about it, which is why I included it in the book. I mean, I think it was a great way for me to have a more broad conversation. I ended the book on that chapter on purpose. It's like I started with the customer and I ended with sort of being better stewards of the planet and our society and our employees, and just as humans, that it is all about people. And it's all about how we can do better. I like to quote my friend Tom Peters when I say, at the end of the day, it's all about people. So I'm going to steal that one from Tom.
Excellent.
We have a enterprise sales rep who has written in, Tim Larson out of Seattle, Washington. And, he's a lot of what you talked about there, it works if you run the company. And so you can make those changes if you're at the head. And he's writing and saying, specifically in the current economic climate, he can't afford to leave his enterprise sales job. But at the same time, he says, I don't feel like I'm selling from a place of purpose here. And so how can I find purpose in a place that I really can't afford to leave?
Yeah, listen, that's a great question. And I'll use this as an example. So Zappos, the shoe company that got acquired by Amazon many years ago, is absolutely known for their customer service and customer experience. And it was an employee who actually came up with the idea that they wanted to carve a call center out literally amongst their 400 customer service reps because the call volume had dropped because obviously business had slowed in light of everything that's going on globally at the moment. And he came up with the idea to say, you know what, let's just make it a line that people can call and talk about anything. Like, some people are alone and in this social distancing, they may feel isolated. And so let's just be here for whatever they want to talk about. And so some people are calling about, random questions about how to bake bread and, what should I do with my kids' homework? I've got 2 more hours of, trying to entertain my children before the school day is over. And so that's what they did. And so, I would say back to you that, a lot of this is from the bottom up. I realize if you're not the manager or the owner of the company, you feel like you don't have a voice. And I'm not saying that you do it in a detrimental way, but it is, I had this idea, maybe get together with your sales team. What can we do? What could we do to make a difference in some of our customers' lives or in the society? Should we as a team get together after work and go volunteer time, deliver meals, walk dogs, do whatever it needs to be done maybe in your neighborhood, and do it as a grassroots effort. I think it's important that even if your company is not ready for that kind of conversation, that you can do it as an individual or as a team. I think if you show the way forward, sometimes it's fear of the unknown that leaders really need to have a beacon of hope. And if the employees are the ones that are going to be the instigators that stimulate that conversation from a brand, I'm all for it. I don't want you to do it to a point where you lose your job. Obviously, as you said, it's really important that you keep your job. Yeah. But just because your executives don't do it doesn't mean you can't create a grassroots effort amongst your team and do things after work or on weekends or create a group or a club internally at the company for something you're really passionate about. I happen to work at Salesforce. And our CEO is all about letting sort of everybody have a voice on what's important. And that really guides him for what are the topics and the situations in communities and cities and really countries around the world that are important to the employees, become important to the executives. And then we sort of use that as a calling card, so whether it's equality, equal pay, whether it's being allies for certain causes, whether it's Black Lives Matters, whatever it is, it's how can we as an organization, as a Fortune 500 brand, play a role in that. And that has really started at the employee level.
I love that pushback, Tiffani. Often we do approach and say, well, my company doesn't do this. How can I? And yet, if you turn that around and say, well, what can I do? Even the smallest of gestures, I love the idea that a lot of small gestures turns into big change, right? So be the one that does the little things that can build the big things. I love it. You got one more for us, Justin?
Yeah, we sure do, Chester. And that was a great response. I got a lot of value from that myself, Tiffani, so thank you. Next question comes from Marie Whitefox from Cortez, Colorado. Says, how do you go about doing well by doing good, specifically as an early stage company who has limited resources and time?
Yeah, this is the time to do it. I'm going to steal from my CEO, Mark Benioff. We have something called 111. And when he started Salesforce 21 years ago, almost now, it was 1% of time, 1% of equity, and 1% of software would be donated. And he often jokes that it's easy when there's like 3 people in the company. 111 becomes very easy. But how do you scale that to 45,000 employees around the globe? 1% of time, and through that, investment early in the founding of the company, we've now given well over 6.5 million hours of volunteer time. Even when we're all on lockdown now with COVID-19, we're still doing virtual volunteering for organizations. It could be reading a children's book to groups of classes around the country. We've adopted schools. We're donating time, even donating software to over 6,000 not-for-profits around the globe, and then our equity as well. And so you really have to think that as a startup, this is the time to do it. take the challenge, take the 1-for-1 challenge. Like, if you're in that particular market where if you sell one, you donate one, you could do that. Or you could even join the 1% pledge, which is 1% of your time, 1% of your equity, 1% of your products that you donate. And when you're in startup mode, now the trick is, how do you scale that as you grow? Because you don't want to lose sort of the fabric of who you are as a company. So the values of your brand begin on day one. It's how do you continue those throughout the lifespan of the company as you grow, as new people enter. But it's also a reason to, when you hire, that you hire people that align to your values. You don't want everybody to be the same and think the same. That's not what I'm saying. But a lot of the reason that people want to come work at Salesforce is because we're a great place to work, but we're a great place to work because of all the things I've just said, right? The employees, giving back, purpose over profit. And so you have this influx of people going, I want to go work for that kind of brand. And that has a lot to do with the people side, not just the technology we're selling. So I think early on, you're in a much better position than if you already have 100 employees or 1,000 employees or 5,000 employees. And now all of a sudden you want to flip the mindset to purpose over profit. People are like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't even understand what that means. So it's easy to do it at the beginning, much more difficult to change the culture later on.
So give us some examples of companies that do this really well. Let's get really specific. Salesforce clearly does it well. Give me an example of a couple of others that have put purpose before profit and or more profitable because of it.
Yeah, I would go back to Unilever. I think they're a fantastic example of a massive organization, obviously, multiple billions in every country, multiple extensive product catalog, and saying, you know what, we over the next 10 years are going to be much better around sustainability, the products we use in our products, the ingredients we use in our products, the packaging we use for our products, the way we train and upskill, the way we hire, equal pay, equality on a global basis. How can we give back to communities? And so taking a brand that wasn't aligned on that necessarily in such a vocal and obvious way, it doesn't mean they weren't, but they really made a pivot towards it, is going to take time. And initially the street was like, whoa, hold on a second. What are you doing? We want to hear what you're doing when it comes to your earnings. And the CEO was steadfast in saying, we're going to talk about how we are stewards of this planet and how we're aligning to the UN's SDGs. So they're a great example. I think Tom's Shoes is a great on 1-for-1, and you've had many people replicate that, over the years, whether it's for glasses, whether it's for clothes, whether it's for shoes, other shoes, whether it's for, even inventing shoes that grow with kids, that over time, because they're going to get one pair of shoes. And so it's thinking more advanced of how could you take what you do and really make a difference on a much more global basis. Lemonade Insurance, as I mentioned, and then we have so many people that have signed up for the 1% pledge. There's thousands of businesses that have done it. We've actually got a Giving Tuesday campaign, that the hashtag Giving Tuesday, that started many years ago. So there's so many that are doing it. And I think that I would, if I were you listening and you don't know what your business is doing, ask the questions like, what are we doing around equal pay? What are we doing around sustainability? What are we doing about giving back to the community? Especially at this time, you want to make sure that your leaders are communicating to you. And once again, if they're not, this is an opportunity for you as an employee to ask the questions and ask them in a positive way that stimulates the right conversation. So I just think there's so many great examples out there. You see Nike saying, no, don't do it this week. Really taking a stand there. It can be taking a stand with like Skittles, actually taking the rainbow colors off the Skittles this month and saying that it's one rainbow. And so Skittles are white, the bag is white, and one rainbow for Gay Pride this month. And so you see a lot of brands really stepping up in their own way, and not to just take advantage of it, but really trying to make a difference.
That's excellent. A lot of companies are in a growth stall right now. And so, we like to give our listeners these practical tools. So if you're in a growth stall, what advice would you have for them? And then, we like to say, hey, what are 3 things people can do to, if they haven't gotten into the purpose for profit, where are places you can start? So first off, advice for those that have stalled, and then 3 tips on how to get going.
So advice for brands that have stalled, when I wrote the book, I actually say in the beginning of it that the book was all about kind of top line growth, and that it wasn't about M&A growth, and it wasn't about cost cutting for growth. And it touched so quickly on, and if there's a black swan event, not realizing, 18 months after the book published, that we would be in the middle of this COVID global pandemic, which is, in my definition anyway, a black swan event. And so we now have this global growth stall. And so I tend to give one piece of advice on this, and that is go back to your existing customer base. This is the year of the customer, not the year of the prospect. And so going into the base of customers you've already acquired over time, and I'm sure many of you listening have been inundated by emails from brands you haven't heard from in a really long time. And so it doesn't mean just reach out to all your customers and email them like, hey, I'm here for you, even though you haven't heard from me in 2 years. That's not a good thing to do. You need to really be authentic in your communication. But going into the base, they've already told you once that they want to do business with you. They trust you. They value the product or service that you sell. So how can you go into that group of customers and stimulate some purchases at this time, especially if you're in a category that is a need right now and not a nice to have? If you're in a nice to have, then it's about how can we add value to the customers we already have. Help them in any way that we can. Even that example with Zappos, like make your customer service center really answering calls when people just have random questions. So, go into the basic customers. That would be the piece of advice for growth stall. Now, the 3 things, I think, Chester, you said 3 things for them to focus on. Is that right?
That's right. And this is the lightning round. So you've got 90 seconds.
3 things. All right. So 3 things I would say is 1, do an inventory of what is working and what is not working. And so actually do that inventory. The second thing I'd say is based on this conversation, like what is the values of the brand? When you come out of this time we're in right now, what do you want to stand for in your community, for your employees, and for your customers? And the third thing is this is a great opportunity for the leadership team of companies of all sizes to really get together and say, what kind of company do we want to be 5 or 10 years from now? Because the decisions that you make today are going to impact your success in years to come. They may not impact you in quarter. So you have to be able to play the long game at this moment.
Excellent. And I think if you're looking for a fun way to kick things off, we've got a great friend, Chris Schembra. Start with gratitude and pasta. That you can't go wrong with gratitude and pasta. Hey,
yes, I love that. I mean, I think that eating pasta makes everyone happy. At least in my household, I'm Italian, so eating pasta is always a good day.
That's right. Manja. Hey, we like to ask everybody, where did you find your gratitude today? Hashtag find your gratitude. Where did you find your gratitude today, Tiffani? Well,
I can say this. This is just an amazing time to be on the planet and to be human. I'm in Los Angeles, California, in the midst of everything that's going on, both the peaceful protests as well as the not peaceful protests. And I'm grateful to live in a country where you can express yourself in peaceful ways and use your voice to try to make change. I have had the privilege of traveling around the world, and there's no country I'd rather be in than the United States of America. And so, I'm grateful to have first world problems at this moment. I mean, really, at the end of the day, there's so many things that I'm grateful for: a roof over my head, food on my table, a job. Being able to do things like this with Chester on a daily basis. I mean, I feel blessed and I'm grateful every day.
What a wonderful way to end our little session, Tiffani. You never disappoint. I love your energy. Great ideas. And, if you want to replay this show or Marshall Goldsmith's show, we dual stream with him. You can find it on the Methods of Network /network. See all the past shows there as well. It's been a delight. We're going to wrap up really quick, but thank you so much for your time. I know you're so in demand. Where can we find more about you and your work and of course, your amazing podcast?
So I would say, go check out the book. It's Growth IQ. I would say go for What's Next, which is my podcast. I have a fun show. It's on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. You can see it wherever, listen to it wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active. Please follow me there, Tiffani Bova, as well as at Twitter at Tiffani_Bova. So I try to stay, on top of the latest and greatest trends. I like to pride myself on consuming lots of content through the day, and then how can I aggregate that and push that back out? So hopefully you'll find it valuable.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Hey, listen, be safe. I'm sure our paths will cross again. Thank you again so much for your time. You don't disappoint. Cheers.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Hey, listen, we always like to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is our wonderful publisher at Harper Business. How did I forget that? Harper Business. We love our folks at Harper Business. In fact, in our book, Leading with Gratitude, Alan Mulally said, I love this book. In fact, there's a subtle reminder here too. Buy me. Love a quick shout out to Justin Levere at the Question Command Center, always doing great work there. Wave to the crowd. And the greatest online producer ever, Brent Klein, with his orange beanie. Give a wave to the crowd. Hey, listen, join us again. Same bad time, same bad channel, 1 o'clock at 1 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our next guest is going to be David Merriman Scott. He talks all about how to help companies and organizations with that human connection to our daily lives to create raving fans for your business. It's going to be great fun. Join us for another 30 minutes. We'll give you great information, great inspiration, and a roadmap to create a culture of gratitude where you work and where you live. I hope that as you've listened and as we go through these unprecedented times, that you'll be a little more grateful, a little more kind, and a little more patient. Hope to see you again soon. Take care. We're out. Cheers.